This is a family-friendly program, so I'm actually trying to figure out exactly how I can present this. I'll tell you what, if you've got kids listening to the show right now, some people do that, just mute it for the next 8 seconds. Kanye West has admitted to an incestuous homosexual relationship with his male cousin when they were children, up through their teenage years. All right, you can unmute it now. Well, maybe you can. I don't know. Kanye, I don't mean to laugh at it. It's a very, very sad story. Kanye has a song out called Cousins. And he says, the song is called Cousins, about my cousin that's locked in jail for life for killing a pregnant lady a few years after I told him we wouldn't look at dirty magazines together anymore. So it just goes right over the whole thing about his cousin killing a pregnant woman. Goes to jail for that. He says, I told him we wouldn't look at dirty magazines together. Perhaps in my self-centered mess, I felt it was my fault that I showed him those dirty magazines when he was 6. And then we acted out what we saw. It says, my dad had Playboy magazines, but the magazines I found in the top of my mom's closet were different. What exactly does he mean by that? Does he mean they were more perverse? I don't know exactly what he means by that. He says, my name is Ye, and then he goes on to describe in graphic detail what he and his cousin did, which I'm not going to do that because no one needs to hear about that. Really awful, really terrible stuff. You do kind of feel bad for Kanye, and you definitely feel bad for the cousin. You definitely feel bad for the lady that the cousin murdered and the kid that the cousin murdered. And you just really feel bad for everyone involved in this culture. That was magazines. That's my biggest takeaway from this. That was magazines that Kanye West is talking about. Finding pornographic magazines impelled Kanye West to commit really traumatic acts that have obviously traumatized him, probably his cousin, would really traumatize anybody, and seriously messed up his life. Kanye West, some years ago, tweeted out, said, he ruined my marriage. It took my marriage from me. He paraded his most recent wife around in a perfect way. He said he wanted to start a company. It's just totally poisoned his brain. It's poisoned the minds of many people who are exposed to at a young age. That was magazines. The pornography that kids are exposed to today at age, 8, I think is the median age of exposure to pornography, internet, is high-speed video, immersive. Now, now we've got 3D goggles and sex robots coming down the pike.
All right, folks. Hello. It is Thursday. It's Christian Conservative, your trusted source for bold, unfiltered news and analysis on the issues that matter most to Christian conservatives. From faith to family to politics and culture, we tackle the hard truths and stand firm on biblical principles. I'm KJ, and of course, I have with me Michelle Talkington. How are you doing tonight, Michelle?
Hey, I'm doing great, KJ. Hello, everybody.
Yes, hello to the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're just joining, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, but definitely hit that like button. It helps to get this video out to more people, and that's what we want to do. We want to spread this information to as many people as we can. So hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. As you guys saw at the top of the show, we are going to talk about this stuff going on with Kanye and more. So again, this channel is where we expose the lies, defend our values, and fight for the truth in a world that is that desperately needs it. So that I thought, first of all, folks, if you have not seen Michael Knowles' full show on this, definitely go and check it out. Of course, Michael Knowles is on the Daily Wire, and he puts forth some really good faith-based content on YouTube. But what we heard about Kanye West, that was off. That was tough to watch. What is your first response to that, Michelle?
Well, I like what he said that it really, you could take Kanye out and put anybody in there
Right.
because it was about the exposure. And it really, because Kanye is famous, we talk about it and say, oh my gosh, but this happens. These things, this is common, more common than we want to talk about. And this is the, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. So what struck me is that, yeah, today they are exposed to 10 times more. I know that it was dangerous when we had, if you guys remember HBO, and I see it in my feeds where like the Crypt Keeper used to tell me bedtime stories because I realized my family had cable. My dad did. So we watched the Crypt Keeper, and heaven forbid you are a kid that was up at night past 10 o'clock on HBO or Skinamax. We all know what kids were exposed to then if they were sneaking around. This is not sneaking. Now it's being peddled by your local elementary school student. It is horrific. And how we stop it, how we help, how we heal. Kanye was a child, so he was really just talking about childhood trauma.
Right, right. I want to acknowledge our super chatter tonight, the first super chatter, Kung Fu CJ. Thank you so much. Says, to God be the glory. Ladies, I turned off the draft, so be fired tonight. Wow. The pressure is on. Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for that $5 super chat. So, yeah, I feel the same way. And the bottom line is, and you brought up a good point, Michelle, that this could be anybody. And particularly, it could be a child. Well, you saw he started out as a child, a teenager, and being exposed to this type of adult content. But now, in today's age, you don't have to even search for it anymore. Adult content is hunting you from Instagram to TikTok. Explicit images and videos are being pushed right into the hands of boys, teens, and grown men alike. And platforms that were supposed to connect families and friends have become soft-core pornography hubs. And no one's talking about it. But guess what? We're going to talk about it because this is not freedom, folks. It's bondage. This isn't liberation. It's corruption. And our sons and daughters are paying the price, but particularly our sons.
Yeah. Yeah. They're being set up for false standards, one, a normalization of something that's perverted. Right. And we know that. We can read that is scriptural, that is biblical, and we can go down the line scripture by scripture. And I know people want to get upset about it, but that's again because we've been desensitized, systematically desensitized to adult content from our infancy now. And also here in the United States, what does that do when we are the largest purchaser of trafficking, women, and children, and that kind of industry? So as long as we keep sneaking it in there in these little videos that pop up between reels, then we're trying to make things okay. And it's not okay, but you realize how many times you've seen an explosion to where you see an explosion in a movie, you're like, okay, that one wasn't as big or as good as the last one. That's the same thing with the pornographic images. That one wasn't as good or as bad. You just get desensitized to it.
You're right. It's the normalization of deviancy is what it is. It's the normalization of deviancy. And, we've seen it over and over again, time and time again. Society celebrates the over-sexualization of this type of stuff instead of protecting innocence. It's in our schools. It's on social media. It's, pushed in the politics. This is what they're doing. And we know this is part of a Marxist agenda. We've said this multiple times here. It's part of a Marxist agenda to destroy the family, destroy youth, and really just create these communal relationships, these communal societies that were prevalent within Marxist camps many, many years ago.
Yeah.
So, what are parents to do? What are men to do, Michelle?
I don't know the answer to that apart from, repent because the time is near. We turn back to God. We expose the truth. We get people help and healing. I love what Wendy said. Hey, Wendy, it's everywhere. And so many women are pushing it. So this self-worship, it is part of feminism. It's part of a feminist movement too, where we can do what we want. We're empowering ourselves to take back our sexuality. We can have as many partners as we want. There's this freedom and empowerment. And it's going back to, Angie said, to Babylon, to Baal worship. It's just going back so far in history. It's not new, but we can call it out, because I'm going to tell you what, as quickly as they push it on us, we have podcasts, we have Instagram, and we have YouTube. We have, as Christians, the ability to counter. Right. We better start countering.
Absolutely. And if you're struggling with this as far as children is concerned, try to get in touch with parental controls, screen limits, and accountability apps are some of the things you may want to do to oppose this type of stuff as far as it coming in digitally. And then fatherlessness. That's a huge epidemic right now, particularly in the Black community. But we need fathers to reclaim their posts and protect, and as protectors and leaders in our communities. And in the same way, men just need to resist these urges, reclaim, your mind, your discipline, your purpose. So again, folks, we are calling for spiritual and cultural awakening. And so you can either be a passive consumer in this perverse system or a soldier who stands for purity, dignity, and truth. But we got to do it. We really have to. I feel so sorry for Kanye West. I mean, I don't know if he's calling out, if this is sort of like if he's calling out for help with these tweets. I mean, it's really bizarre. But I mean, if this truly did happen to him, because he said that the magazines that he was looking at weren't like Playboy. They were something else, he said. So I don't know what that means. Yeah. It's just really sad.
We can go back in time. I mean, we can literally go back and see what was being published at that time and figure that out easy. Right. What bothers me, and I'll say I'll of course take that end of, if this is happening to you in a home, if this is a parent, a step parent, because I've been involved, seen those situations, fought for people in those, court cases, those things have happened, then really as an adult, after the trauma, that is when we have to deal with forgiveness, fighting back the demonic, because those entities like to latch on, those ones that got you from childhood, and keep lying to you and keep feeding the enemy's words to you. So that's what we have. And that's why I see in Kanye, I'm like, man, if this wasn't ever, it seems like a case of these demons coming back. I don't know that they ever left. Mm-hmm. I know that he found God, or says that he found Christ, but that's still, he's got some cleansing and things to deal with. And then when you're re-exposed, you go to the wrong party, the wrong house, the wrong group of people, he keeps being exposed to that same stuff over and over and over. That's what we see in a lot of these celebrities. They seem to be on a good track, and all of a sudden it's right back. And we just see it on a public stage. So getting help, healing, and then forgiveness. What I know is you have to forgive yourself. If you've experienced that trauma, you cannot continue to blame yourself. And he's blaming himself in some of his messages. You have to learn that forgiveness that Christ gives you, and you have to forgive so that you can let that go and move on, and then be that speaker or preacher or somebody that helps the others that are still going through.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, folks, if you're just coming in, please hit that like button, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We are really trying to build this channel. It's a fairly new channel, and we are all about spreading biblical. We sort of connect the biblical to the cultural and political. We bring it all together and expose the lies and defend our values. So if this is what you've been looking for, this is a community that we're beginning here, and definitely hit the like button and subscribe. Yes, we have another super chat from Kung Fu CJ. Says Kanye's dad lives in Southern Maryland. Oh, I didn't know that. Wow. Okay, you guys know we're here in Maryland. So I did not know that. Good to know. Yeah, so moving right along here, we got to talk more again. I think we talked about this on here, about these parents who brought this case from the Supreme Court in Maryland, in bringing a lawsuit suing the school board for denying them the right to opt their children out of lessons concerning 20 books on so-called inclusivity. So these books are basically based on LGBT gender ideology. So we've talked about this in the past, but now the Supreme Court has been going through the case. It started on Tuesday, right, of this week. And folks, they are really picking this thing apart. So just to recap, at the heart of this is a question that strikes at the soul of parental rights in America. Do parents have the right to opt their children out of radical gender and sexuality content in schools? This is, again, we not only have to fight social media and all, they're trying to actually include this stuff in the curriculum of schools, public schools. This is crazy.
And Maryland, of course.
Right. Right here.
Maryland is always instead to be just as much as I hear California, I'm starting to hear Maryland over and over because we're just so deep blue. We're so corrupted. We're right next to DC. And I know a lot of moms that are in this fight personally. I got all the emails when they started pushing this over a year ago. So it's real. I'm so happy it's here and it's being exposed at the highest court.
Same here. Same here, Michelle. Well, I want to bring to you guys tonight just a glimpse at what the justices are actually asking the lawyers representing these transsexually pushing Maryland school district. So this first clip here is Justice Gorsuch, and he is talking to one of the lawyers representing the transsexually pushing Maryland school district, the ideology. And the discussion is about forcing sexual material on elementary school kids, even 3-year-olds. Take a look here. This is the audio. It's just audio. Again, this is Justice Gorsuch.
I just want to make sure I understand a few fact things and then a law question. What age do you in Montgomery County teach students normally about human sexuality?
I think that it begins in either 4th or 5th grade.
The human sexuality class.
The family life and human sexuality curriculum.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure.
Starts in 4th or 5th grade, you think?
So.
Is there anything you can point us to in the record on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. And second, these books are being used in English class.
The division between English class and other things in a 2nd grade classroom doesn't really exist. You're sort of in a room with a teacher and sometimes.
No, I appreciate that. I went to 2nd grade too.
Yeah.
But it's part of the English curriculum that these books are being used in. I thought that was.
Yeah, I'm not fighting the premise. I'm just saying that
it's not the math class.
It is not.
It's not the human sexuality class.
It is certainly not the human sexuality class. Yeah. I'm just sort of fighting the premise that there's a neat distinction.
Okay, and they're being used in English language instruction at age 3. Some of them.
So Pride Puppy was the book that was used for the pre-kindergarten curriculum. That's no longer in the curriculum.
That's the one where they are supposed to look for the leather and things and bondage, things like that.
It's not bondage. It's a woman in a leather.
Sex worker, right?
No, that's not correct. No.
I read it.
It's a drag queen.
Drag queen and drag
correct.
Queen.
The leather that they're pointing to is a woman in a leather jacket. And one of the words is drag queen in the search.
And they're supposed to look for those.
It is an option at the end of the book, correct?
Yeah, okay. And you've included these in the English language curriculum rather than the human sexuality curriculum to influence students. Is that fair? That's what the district court found.
I think to the extent the district court found that it was to influence them towards civility. The natural consequence of being exposed.
Whatever, but to influence them.
In the manner that I just mentioned, yes.
So that is the crux of this. And herein lies the problem. These books are being used to influence children to agree with this type of sexual identity. And children that at this age are very, very impressionable. Michelle, what do you think about that?
To influence civility by finding the drag queen.
Right.
The entire sentence, and besides that, the councilman, the attorney, he's clearly uneducated on all the topics that he's presenting. He's representing them poorly because he didn't know when sexuality was taught, 4th or 5th grade. He has a lot of maybes happening. And frankly, as far as I'm concerned, family, health, take it all out. Take it all out. Shouldn't be in elementary school at this point, period. End of discussion. Take it all out.
Yeah.
For middle school, high school.
Right. It's crazy. Again, and it will influence children. And again, whether you agree or disagree with this lifestyle, it should not be something used to influence other people's children. Right. And the story does. It centers around a family outing to a pride parade. That's another thing. What if I would never allow my child to go to a pride parade. There are actually some gay people that would not allow their kids to go to pride parades. So why are we putting a book in for 3rd graders, for 4th graders, for kindergartners, telling them about what it is to go to a pride parade? This makes no sense.
Correct. And this is about religious freedom. So this is, and the fact that they took out the opt-out and claimed it was because not enough students were in attendance. They're using any way they can. And we know that Satan does that. Any way he can, he'll find a way to get it there. And the fact that it lasted this long already, that it's during COVID, which 1, 2 years, 3 years exposure is already irreparable harm and damage for some of these students.
Exactly. I mean, this should not be in the curriculum, whether you're religious or not. We don't send our children to school to be indoctrinated on this type of stuff.
It's crazy because the kids can't even read. That is the foolishness, because in Maryland, our test scores are abysmal. So they're reading it to children who are not leaving the elementary schools at reading level. I mean, exactly. What does that say? You better go back to the Cat in the Hat, my friends. We should not be puppy pride. None of this has to do with just learning the alphabet, reading comprehension. So there's clearly an agenda.
Exactly. And not only should people attending this school, anyone who lives in this area that are paying tax dollars towards these school districts should be upset as well, because they're using taxpayer dollars to promote radical agendas. This is not right. This isn't about representation. It's about recruitment.
It is.
Yeah. So folks, I see you guys sounding off in the chat. Again, if you disagree with this type of stuff, hit that like button and definitely share this broadcast, because I don't believe as many people as we think know that this is going on in our classrooms. As you said, Michelle, we have children who are, all over the country, who are in failing schools. They are not even up to average grade level in reading and math, but yet they're using time to push this type of sexualization onto these children.
I'm just mad that they made that book, that they have this book and they made it a Where's Waldo. The fact that it says it's an option, go back to the back and you have a search and find the drag queen. That is a Where's Waldo. That is an activity book. That is a fun search where you don't even have to read, because they don't care, like I said, about the comprehension or the education. It's not teaching. It's not influencing civility. It's let's find this thing and say that this thing is great and be excited when you find it. Be excited when you find the drag queen. So what do you think happens to those kindergartners and 1st graders and those that go out and they're just walking the streets or they're different places? Look what I found. Look, is that a drag queen too? Think about the excitement, because they were preconditioned for this. Now, I know people that are, like I said, I've known people in those industries. For adults, the fact that they're pushing this on our children, you leave these kids alone.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And another thing about this, I was going to say another thing, and I think I forgot. It's insane.
Well, I'll tell you guys one thing about Montgomery County, and this is what I love. I said, you messed around and thought you were getting away with it, but you got into a community of rich people So for those of you guys don't know Montgomery County, the average income is $123,000, but the average home, the median home price is $650,000. These are $500,000 homes, and a lot of them are actually way above that. Remember, that's the median. We have some areas in Montgomery County that are a lot of townhomes and things like that, but we have tons of $1 million properties everywhere in Montgomery County. So they messed around, and they're finding out from families who are saying, all right, I'll put my money to an attorney. I'll put my money where my mouth is. We will organize. And I think that's great for other communities, because to this point, they are saying something, but think about the communities that don't know and aren't saying anything.
Yeah.
Think about the ones whose parents don't independently have enough money to hire an attorney.
Right.
I can't find an attorney to pick this up.
Well, that's what they're banking on. Mm-hmm. So, initially when we started seeing a lot of these fads of these trans kids and queer kids and all this type of stuff, it really was centered around people with money, in Hollywood and things like that. But now, since they've actually implemented and pushed this stuff into public schools, now we're seeing it spread out amongst people of middle class, and lower classes of people as far as money and socioeconomic status. We're starting to see it pushed more to that. And so, and unfortunately, many of these kids, and I see Shelly in the chat, she's advocated for pulling your kids out of school, and I definitely get it too. But some of these kids have parents who are single parents, and they're working, maybe multiple jobs, and they can't pull their kids out of school. Folks, we have Shelly E is in the chat, folks. Wow, Shelly E from Poppin' Politics. She says self-worship is as old as time. It used to be called self-worship. Now we have other labels for it, whether feminism, toxic masculinity, etc. There is nothing new under the sun. Yes, indeed. We're going to talk about that even a little later with Michelle Obama. And remember, folks, this lawsuit is it's not even about getting it out of the school. They are asking for permission to remove their children. This is the wild thing. Like the school system has said they cannot opt their children out. They will not let parents know that they are going to be teaching this. And they're saying, look, your child will learn about this, whether you like it or not, is what they're saying, which is insane.
Yeah. Yes, but we know, and what we'll hear is there are crazy judges and politicians that agree, and this is just crazy.
And one of them, as you mentioned, is Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. So in this next clip, Justice Jackson is stuck on the idea that the drag queen sex books could just be sitting on shelves in the preschool classrooms, but suing families have made clear in their lawsuits that these books have to be taught in the curriculum, including pre-K. So take a look at this, listen to this exchange. All right, here we are.
Moment, we don't at this moment, based on the record you've provided, know that these books aren't just sitting on the shelves. And you've said that if that's the case, that's not going to be enough.
I disagree, Your Honor. The record is undisputed. And I, again, will refer you to the district court transcript at 63, where counsel
So you're saying the Fourth Circuit is wrong when it says, quote, we don't have any information about how any teacher or school employee has actually used any of the books.
The Court of Appeals did not dispute that some of the books have to be used, and we have all of the teachers' instructions that the board's not disputed.
I understand that, but the Fourth Circuit made a ruling that we don't know, quote, what any child has been taught in conjunction with their use. So are you saying that you do have affidavits and information about teachers in the classroom and what they've taught children of different ages about these books?
Yes, we do. All of our clients have, in their declarations, they describe which books were going to be read to their children.
Were the clients in the classroom?
They were not in the classroom, but they know. And again, we don't have to wait until the injury has happened to get relief. The point of a preliminary injunction is that we can, when the injury is imminent, we can seek relief.
All right, let me ask you another.
For our children's destroyed.
Let me ask you another series of questions, because I'm just trying to understand.
This woman is idiot.
She's just sick, and she's
and sick. First of all, you heard what she said. How do you know that these children have been read these books? Well, first of all, the kids can tell you. I have actually been in this situation.
Yes.
It was one of the books that are actually on this list, The Prince and the Knight. My son was in third grade, I believe. It was either third or fourth grade. I think it was third grade. And he came home and said the art teacher who would read to different classrooms during, like a relaxed time or whatever, she would come in. She brought a book called The Prince and the Knight. And he came home and he was like, Mom, this was really weird. Mm-hmm. It was like a prince and a knight liked each other. Two boys. I get so upset just talking about it. So yes, children, especially if you have talked to your child and they know about this kind of stuff and they know what's right and what's wrong according to your household, according to your faith, they can come home and tell you that this stuff is going on. Thank God.
I mean, how did she think that the parents at large found out? It was because of that, KJ, because they came home and said, Mommy. And they came home at all different age groups, and said, that's how all of these families have connected. And that's just sick to say, let me see that your child has been injured. We know the books are being read. That's injury enough for a lot of these families. And it shouldn't get to that point because the bottom line is those books should not be there. They shouldn't be there. Who is she advocating for? Who is in her ear? Who is pushing her? Who is calling her? Who is sending her these emails?
Oh,
because that is a sick judge.
Yeah, these people are sick. They don't want innocence. They want everyone, every child to know about these types of lifestyles. And they want every child to affirm these types of lifestyles. Yep. They do not agree with our religion. They do not agree with the faith. And mind you, this lawsuit is being brought by Muslim families, Christian families, Orthodox Ukrainians, multiple faiths, okay? They do not care about our religion. They don't. They actually hate it. And here, this next one, she proves it. Again, this is Justice Ketanji Brown in another exchange with the attorney representing the parents. Listen to this.
And I guess I'm struggling to see how it burdens a parent's religious exercise if the school teaches something that the parent disagrees with. You have a choice. You don't have to send your kid to that school. You can put them in another situation.
So what is your response to that, Michelle?
No. So what's interesting is how dare she? How dare she? We have a choice. And I'm a homeschooling. I talk about homeschooling all the time, but I understand that there are two-parent working homes. Everybody can't homeschool or doesn't know how. Everybody shouldn't, and no one should have to. That's the thing. The public education system should do what its job. It should teach children core subjects and do it effectively, and they don't. She has a hard time understanding a lot of things because she's saying, I'm trying to understand. I think she will never understand because she doesn't understand what a woman is. So she can't define a woman. No wonder she doesn't have a problem with these books being given to parents. So to say, yeah, you know what? Go ahead. I appreciate the one thing she just did. I think she just advocated for school choice for all of us, and I'm all for that. So what all those families should do is not only pull their kids, but demand that the schools not get the funding from their tax dollars. So we can have a whole nother discussion if a large group of students just stopped attending school, because you can't just round up every parent and say, oh, you're all getting truancy notices, we're taking everybody to jail. No, that kind of issue, that kind of movement, they don't really want to see, because parents are getting to the point where we will do that.
Right. And guess what? Another thing, we as parents are not the problem. The curriculum is. Correct. And again, I go back to this. We pay taxes. We built these schools. And we will not surrender to activist teachers and administrators hiding behind chalkboards and rainbow flags. And so I definitely support home teaching and homeschooling, I should say. I support co-ops and all of it. But we should not surrender to the public schools, to these activist teachers. Exactly. of course, I support homeschooling and private options and things like that, but it shouldn't be our only option.
It should not. And she's asking people to up and move. Do you know how much? I gave you the median income. Do you know that the private schools in Montgomery County area, these are $20,000 a year schools, $14,000, $18,000, $20,000 a year? Who can afford that? You shouldn't have to afford that because, like you said, KJ, the school should be doing what we pay them to do, what you take tax dollars out of our accounts, out of our income taxes for. They should be doing that. And we were always in charge. We always had the power. At some point as parents, we just abdicated that and just said, okay, go ahead and do what you want to do because we got complacent. We made an assumption they were doing right. Again, I think God allowed COVID to be an opportunity to expose the enemy. He exposed how Satan was operating in the schools, how he was using people in the schools to get to our children. This is disgusting.
Exactly. I want to acknowledge our super chatter here. All right. So we have here Wendy with the $5 super chat says, this is why it's important to get this away from the government and back to the states.
Yes.
Absolutely, Wendy. Good comment there. And thank you so much for your super chat. Yeah, I totally agree. And, again, we can't surrender. We cannot. And again, we have skin in the game because our tax dollars go towards these schools, and the schools should teach reading, writing, and arithmetic, not rewire our kids' biologies or worldviews. Gender theory is not science. It's political indoctrination.
Exactly.
And there's no academic value in it. It's none.
No, in fact, it is anti-science. And a lot of these books they're advocating for mental illness. Right. So that is just what's crazy, that we are intentionally saying it is okay to think that you don't have XX or XY chromosome. We're taking away from science. So we're doing harm that way. How do we go from these books to going to a science lesson in the next breath? Exactly. They need to figure that out.
I totally agree. And guess what? We're not running. We're not retreating. And folks, if you're tired of being told to leave your own institutions just to protect your children, it's time to fight back. So again, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Share it on your social media, in a DM, in a text message, send the link out. Parents don't answer to schools. Schools answer to parents. And it's just as simple as that.
Amen, KJ.
Right. Go ahead, Michelle. Yeah.
Amen. That's it. The end. Right.
Yes, indeed. All right. So I'm going to change gears a little bit and move on to The View. So this recently, Raphael Warnock was on The View. He, as you guys know, is a so-called pastor in Georgia, and he's also a senator, I believe. And I know he's in Congress.
Correct.
He's a senator, right? Yeah, senator for Georgia. And here he is pushing this woke. Biblical, not even biblical, I don't know, woke ministry stuff on The View. And so I want you guys to take a look at this. Let me see here.
Always a gem. The View always has something for us.
Oh, yeah.
I love, oh Lordy, The View.
That is the acid test of your spirituality. That's what that text is all about.
Oh wait,
and as I Christian, and Jesus said the way you treat the folks who are on the margins, that is the acid test of your spirituality. That's what that text is all about.
So he's talking about because we missed the beginning of it, Matthew 24. I think he said it was Matthew 24, Matthew 25. He said he's okay. Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, he says he's a Matthew 25 Christian, and now he's going on to talk about why he is a Matthew 25 Christian.
And as I witness and watch what's happening, And in a lot of it, it seems that cruelty is the point.
Yeah.
And so when I watch this and hear it coming from folks who have a lot to say about their Christian identity, I have to say as a pastor, Whoopi, that I think Jesus is the biggest victim of identity theft in the country.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who this Jesus is they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, the Jesus I know was.
And he doesn't know you. He doesn't know you either.
I'm not surprised he doesn't know that Jesus.
I know. I will keep it going. I just want to say.
Was born in a barrio called Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Raised in a ghetto called Nazareth. He was an immigrant, smuggled into Egypt.
Sorry.
And in his very first sermon, he centered the poor. It's good news to the poor, deliverance to the captives, preaching the year of the Lord's freedom. And so that's something that I try to do and embody in my work as a United States Senator. I think that our country is going through what I call a kind of soul weariness. I know folks say we're in a constitutional crisis. We're definitely in a spiritual crisis.
Yeah. Sure.
And you know how sometimes you wake up in the morning and you just feel bad. You can't quite put your finger on it. I think after years of COVID, 20 years of what felt like endless war, and then piling on top of all of that, demagogues who traffic in division because they have no vision. I think the weight of it all has got folks on the left and the right.
All right, let's stop it right here. Okay, so
How long did he sit and write that? How long did it take him to sit? You know, he practiced that in front of his preacher mirror and said it all over and over and over again. Demagogues who traffic in division because they have no vision. Demagogues who traffic in division. I mean, I just picture this because this is a farce. This is a joke. I don't take him seriously. And you know what? He's in the right place. He is literally preaching to his choir. Those are the people that listen to his messages. People that have no God in them. They profess to know who Jesus is, but they do not walk with him. They do not talk with him. I'm surprised they know his name and they go from the barrio to the ghetto and all that. Christ lived. He clearly has not been overseas. He was not in Israel. He has not been there. So it's interesting that he would compare those things. But again, he's preaching to his own choir. He's on his soapbox. Let it be, but let him be exposed. So every time preachers like this get up there, I'm like, okay, well, then we got another one. We know exactly who to look out for. We know exactly who is leading his flock, the sheep who follow after him, completely astray.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to acknowledge our super chatters here. So let's see here. We have Laura with a $10 super chat. Yes. Thank you so much, Laura. We really appreciate you. We really do. She says, great job, ladies. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I really want to get into this because I am so when I first saw this, I was like, oh wow. Because remember last week it was who was it? It was another Democrat talking about Matthew 25 and the parables. I forget who it was. The guy from Atlanta too. They were using this thing talking about how God is going to steal your gifts if you didn't vote for Kamala Harris. It was like you refused to use your power.
The congressman. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna pull that. Right.
Yeah, it was. I think it was. I forget. I know the name. It was the guy who marched for Selma and stuff. But yeah, we were talking about this same scripture last week, and then I didn't do this on purpose, but I just saw him on The View, and I saw him spouting out this nonsense. And then when I read, actually today, honestly, Clyburn, right? Yes, thank you so much. Yes, and then when I listened to him, I was like, oh my gosh, he's using that same verse incorrectly. So first off, this again is the parable that it's a parable that the scripture is talking about as a picture of the rapture of the church. So, we believe a better interpretation is that it's a parable of the 10 virgins, pictures Christ's second coming at the end of the tribulation. Some people say it's in the rapture. Some believe it's during tribulation. I personally believe it is during tribulation, but that's, here or there. And so basically it's that all the parables in this series relate to Israel, not the church. So Israel during the end times is the focus of Matthew 24 and 25. And so in my view, if the bridegroom in the parable is Jesus Christ, and he's waiting for the bridesmaids, which are Israel. And so it's basically saying we better be ready. He's coming, whether you believe it's in tribulation or the rapture. He's coming, and we need to be ready. And so what do we do to be ready as Christians, as Holy Spirit-filled people? We got to, again, spread the news and be born again. You're filled with the Holy Spirit, producing light in this world, and be prepared. That's the preparation. Be ready, be prepared, be repentant.
Keep oil in your lamp. Keep oil in that lantern so it doesn't run out. But KJ, let's be honest, you're talking too much biblical, and they don't want to talk biblically. They want to use the Bible to talk about politics. They want to use the Bible to justify Democrat policies, to divide people. I mean, it's just, at this point, it is clownish. I don't know how people take them seriously. And I don't care what your title is. I don't care if you are a pastor or a bishop or elder or nobody, somebody who simply reads the Bible and is a Christian, a follower of Christ, not just says, oh, I'm a Christian because I attended church. Or do you follow Christ? Right. Do you know how you get to heaven? There's a difference. But they don't want to hear that. They don't want to use that. They want to have their moment. And you saw Whoopi over there, and she was just, she was so intense, and it was so serious. Like the one time she's just taking them so seriously. And it's hard for me to stomach those things, to watch them and take it seriously. Yeah, pray for their congregation. Somebody said, pray for, I will, you have to pray for that. But I've seen people in churches just follow after anything. So,
And the crazy thing to me was, he is supposed to be this light of the world. He's supposed to be an example, especially of a leader, of a preacher. He's a pastor. So he's supposed to be an example for us of holy living, of righteousness. The Bible talks about holy living is imitating God. It's walking as a child of the light. It's rebuking darkness, opposing darkness. But here he is on The View, where all they do is talk about their support for alternative lifestyles, for transgenderism, for abortion, for chaos, total chaos. And he's not even there spreading, the gospel and repentance. He's agreeing with them.
Well, he had an entire background. If anybody followed him as he was fighting, and this was a really big race. It was an expensive race. He was caught up in so many controversies, from kicking people out of all of their homes during COVID over $2, over 10 cents. Like he has a bad history anyways. Right. So it's hard for me to look. He is a man, and I don't know, as a pastor, I think he forgot his first love. But what was that he said about Jesus being his identity stolen, identity theft? Yeah, you know why he knows that? It's because he's the primary. He hands out passports with Christ's face on it at this point, because he's a perpetrator of that.
Yeah,
he's a perpetrator of the fraud, of identity theft, of using Jesus and using his messages and twisting it around for his own good. And I think when you get in those positions, sometimes that power gets a hold of you, and you want to stay there. You want to stay like a fat calf, just sit there. You want to get the money. You need the clout. You need the recognition. You need to be on these shows.
Right. But it's sad, because I think the state of our community, the state of our country, is because we don't have leaders, which he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be a spiritual leader. We don't have them, as examples. We don't have them showing the fruit. We see the fruit of what they're doing is bad, and they're not exposing darkness. They're not, trying to lead you to witness and talking about repent and talking about holy living. And so what we have are leaders of darkness, which they pretend to be, leaders of faith, where the Bible says, take no part in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead expose them. And we don't have anybody exposing them anymore, especially not leaders in the church, in the faith. We don't have enough exposing this stuff. And it's sad.
You're right, KJ. What makes me angry is when I see them, they're never talking about turning away from the sin. They don't even want to call it out. And then they never talk about turning away from it.
Right. Exactly. Well, there is one. I know there's more than one, but there's one we are particularly talking about tonight. And this is Cardinal Sarah. So you guys know that the current Pope, Pope Francis, right, passed away recently. And he was known to, a Pope that was very progressive. He was a Jesuit Pope. He was very progressive in his teaching, the church on a more progressive route. And so I don't think that's even debatable. And so now they have to find a new pope to replace him. And a lot of people, particularly in the conservative circles or the conservative wing of the Catholic Church, have really been excited about this Cardinal Sarah. So before we go into who he is and where he's from and his background, I want you guys to take a look at this, of what he believes, his message here. All right, so let's see here. All right, here we have him. Now he speaks French, so we have this transcribed for you all so you can, pretty much understand what he's saying. All right.
D'occidental, qu'est-ce qui vous inquiète?
Vous savez, la plus grande inquiétude, c'est que l'Europe ne veut plus ou a perdu le sens de ses origines. Il a perdu ses racines. Or, un arbre qui n'a pas de racines, il meurt. Et j'ai peur que l'Occident meure. Il y a beaucoup de signes, voyez-vous, beaucoup de signes, pas plus de natalité. Et vous êtes envahi quand même par d'autres cultures, d'autres peuples qui nous promettent et changer totalement votre culture, vos convictions, vos valeurs.
D'occidental, qu'est-ce qui vous inquiète?
All right. So there he was. I hope you guys were able to see that. Yeah, so I like him. So he's from Guinea. And he's, had a very significant rise within the Catholic Church as a fearless opposition to Western moral decay. What are your thoughts on him, Michelle?
I mean, he's wonderful. He speaks the truth. And the more I learn, the more I listen and go back now, I'm starting to research him because he makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. As I mentioned, he was born in a small village in rural French Guinea. So he speaks French. So Guinea is a country along the west coast of Africa. So his parents converted to Catholicism from an animistic native religion. And he's just, gone up and up and up in the Catholic Church. But he's has been quoted a lot as calling out gender ideology. Some of his most powerful warnings were on silence and prayer. He's quoted as saying, "A church that no longer knows silence loses God." On gender ideology, he's quoted as saying, "We are not God. We are not free to choose our sex." On the West spiritual death, he said, and that was just in this quote, "The West is dying because it has forgotten God." Mm-hmm. So He's really concerned about how the family is under attack. Children are being indoctrinated. Christians are being told to sit down and shut up. And he pushes back against it all. I really like him. I really do. Just from what I've been researching on him. And he's in a total opposite of somebody like Raphael Warnock. Is he not?
He's right. You know, he's so calm when he speaks. And I say this a lot, and I get passionate, so I'm not going to say it's about me, because I'm one of those people that can yell, shout, but that's just me. I'm just, you know, out there as a personality, but he's calm. And when you know the truth and you speak the truth, you don't have to shout. He just has knowledge. He is an actual example of biblical wisdom.
Right.
And that's hard to see. You don't find it all the time. I rarely find people that I immediately respect. My grandfather was one of those men. He didn't say a lot. When he spoke, I listened to everything, because he had wisdom. He used it. He had knowledge, but he used that knowledge and he gave us wisdom. This is if he were to become a pope, he would be one that really transforms, because he is conservative in the true sense of the word, and he would be able to turn people back to Christ. And that's what I want to see. This last pope, I mean, it was just open your borders. Meanwhile, the Vatican is a fortress. It's let anything goes. It was really sad to see, and I'm not Catholic, so I will, make that clear.
Right, neither am I.
I know a lot of Catholics who were upset in where he was going, and a lot of progressives who were really excited about what this last pope was doing. But this is a man that really encompasses and embodies godliness, holiness, and what he says speaks for itself. I mean, fantastic. What a fantastic, I guess, candidate. I don't know what you call them, but
right. Yeah, I agree. And I don't know how well his chances of becoming the next pope. I don't know, but prayerfully, we know that God hears the prayers of the righteous, that he will, somehow get in. I pray God puts him in there, and that whoever becomes the next pope is able to withstand the what's coming against them, because we know that this, we're not done yet. We're not nowhere near the end. We're not nowhere near done. The opposition, Satan is going to put up a battle like no other against righteousness. So we will continue to pray that someone that is righteous is put in that place. All right. So folks, again, if you're just coming in, please hit that like button and subscribe. It's time to, and you mentioned something, Michelle, about him being quiet. And a lot of times, I know I say this a lot on Pop and Politics. I truly believe one of it's not talked about often enough, but calm, quiet, reserved is a masculine trait. And so we are told a lot that, these macho guys, these loud guys, that's the true definition of masculinity, but it's not really. Masculinity is supposed to is reserved. It's, steady. And that is what he is. That's masculinity. That is, what a masculine man does. We as women, we're emotional, a lot of times we're passionate. So this is why it's so nice to have, when man and woman come together in a marriage or in a relationship, it's a great balance, because it's that calm, strong, steady, reserved versus our kind of like emotional energy.
You're right, Casey. And it reminds me of the Westerns, the old Westerns.
Right.
They had the hats on, they look around side to side, say two things, but I'm like, oh, that was a man.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So again, guys, if you care about your soul, your children, and the future of the church, you can't ignore what Cardinal Sarah is saying. Don't wait until it's too late. Share this message with your fellow Catholics or anyone that's faith-based, and subscribe. And more than anything, we all need to return to God. So definitely we'll do that there. All right, so I'm going to change gears a little bit and get into this Michelle Obama recent clip. So, of course, we know Michelle Obama started her own YouTube show. She's probably, I don't know if she's even gone a month yet by doing it, but it hasn't been doing as well as you would think. Michelle Obama was huge. Icon for women. She's well liked across really the political spectrum. And many people wanted her to run when President Biden left the race, but she did not want to run. So now, of course, she's come out with this podcast with her brother, and we haven't talked about this yet, but it has not done well. It hasn't done well. So here in this next clip, she is talking to actress Taraji P. Henson about why she skipped out on Trump's recent inauguration. So take a look and then let's respond to this. So before we do, Kung Fu CJ says, "Oh, we talking about Big Mike." Yes, we are. Yeah, we're going to talk about that too, Big Mike. We're going to talk about that. Yes, thank you so much, Kung Fu CJ. All right, so here we are. Take a look at this. Right here we go.
And keep striving. And so practicing no in a very different way intentionally. But then this is what makes it hard because, my decision to skip the inauguration, what people don't realize, or my decision to make choices at the beginning of this year that suited me were met with such ridicule and criticism. Like people couldn't believe that I was saying no for any other reason, that they had to assume that my marriage was falling apart,
right. So I want to stop it right here. Before we go on, we're going to go on. First off, look at her. So she has totally changed her image from when she was first lady. I want you to see, let me see here. I want to show this really quickly. This was her back when she was in the White House. I mean, she was graceful. She was feminine. Smiley. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When she was in the White House, I liked her. I did. I thought she was elegant. She was graceful. Well-spoken. Remember, she was really into the fitness, she was definitely different than she is now. What are your thoughts there, Michelle?
Anytime I see her, I mean, that was the first thought was that is a fall from grace. She looks terrible. I was going to say it. She looks horrible.
I know.
The whole package. I mean, they're multimillionaires. You have stylists. Somebody let you out of the house, out of the room, looking like that. Who said this is? I don't know who's advising Michelle Obama or who is not, but it's just not overall. It's overall not a good look. Or the personality has changed so drastically. Nothing about Michelle right now says first lady ever.
I know.
That's what's just strange about this whole thing. And you know what? You do have an obligation. As far as I'm concerned, if you or your spouse is elevated to the president of the United States, which represents less than like 0.0001% of the world's population, we know how many presidents we've had. Yes, your entire family takes on a prestigious role. You will be forever called the first lady, the president. Get over it. I'm sorry. Not sorry. Besides that, I have no sympathy. You're a multi-millionaire. You've made even more money leaving the White House and causing chaos. but it just looks bad. Something is, but you know what? I see a lot of people that are sick and suffering that look bad. And I'm not talking about a physical illness. I'm talking about a spiritual illness. And that can cause you to see things that are just ugly.
Right. I don't know what happened to her. But she does not look like she used to look. And we're going to keep going on this. So she gets into why she did not go to the inauguration. Here she is.
It's like, while I'm here really trying to own my life and intentionally practice making the choice that was right for me, and it took everything in my power to not do the thing that was right, or that was perceived as right, but do the thing that was right for me. That was a hard thing for me to do. I had to basically trick myself out of it. And it started with not having anything to wear. I mean, I had affirmatively, because I'm always prepared for any funeral, anything. I walk around with the right dress. I travel with clothes just in case something pops off. So I was like, if I'm not going to do this thing, I got to tell my team, I don't even want to have a dress ready. Right? Because it's so easy to just say, let me do the right thing.
But then you become a shock absorber. And that's what women are. Shock absorbers. And that's exhausting. And it's not healthy. It is not healthy. You've had to be shock absorbers for your husband, for your children, for your mom, for your family, your loved ones, because of where you were sitting in the public eye. That's not fair to you.
So I totally disagree with that. You know, first off, I think she is the first lady in history to skip an inauguration. You know, even in there've been so many. Hillary Clinton, even after George Bush's inauguration, after George Bush won in 2001, and it was bitter and controversial. Remember, all of the hanging chads, despite Bill Clinton's presidency ending in the Florida recount battle, Hillary Clinton still went to the inauguration. 1993, Barbara Bush attended Bill Clinton's inauguration after George H.W. Bush lost re-election. She was gracious and respectful throughout. I mean, the list goes on. For generations, this is what women did. And it lends a much larger issue to what these modern women are doing now. We're going to finish this out. Here, let's finish this clip, and then I want to get your response, Michelle.
When do you ever get to live for you? I applaud you. I'm happy that you are taking care of yourself in the way that you need to.
Okay, and this is a single woman. She's unmarried. She can't find a man, and she's telling her what to do. So what are your thoughts on this, Michelle?
Well, what's unhealthy is listening to these women. So first off, it's unhealthy. No, listening to you is unhealthy. And since when is doing the right thing wrong? She's literally talking about doing the right thing. And I need to make a choice to not do the right thing. Well, then you made the wrong choice because you're a fool and you're selfish. You are selfish and self-righteous because you went after Melania like nobody's business. All of you did. You talked about that woman like she was trash, like she was the dog, like it didn't matter what she wore, and she was classy. And she said nothing back. A woman who could speak multiple languages, but you wanted to make fun of her English accent? Well, let her say it in French or whatever other language she says it. So that was what frustrates me. And you know what? No, you don't get the right to live for yourself because you live for God if you profess to be a Christian. So you better follow after God and what he tells you to do, not what you say because you feel it that way. You think I'm going to always get up and feed my children? No, but God blessed me with 6 children. So you know what? And a husband, I'm going to get up and I'm going to do what God has called me to do. And that might be doing the laundry. You know, my washer broke down. This is my own personal rant. Washer and dryer broke this week. Easter week. I just took 16 loads to the laundromat today. Had to wash them. You know, I was out $100. But my point is that I did that because I am living that Proverbs life as a mother, as a wife. Yes, I work. I do all kinds of things. And I'm here on the podcast. but that's what you do. And it's the right thing to do. So listening to these women is it's toxic and tiring, and they have all the money in the world. And somebody on here is like, "Oh, leave her alone." Who was that said leave?
Oh, I didn't see it. OMG, that Bill. Leave her, let her alone.
Bill, I love you, but I can't leave her alone. She's got a team. A team. I wish I had a team. I mean, I have one, but they're children, so I'm not going to let them style me. But when you have that type of lifestyle and you have the nerve to complain to the rest of to the rest of us, like, "Oh, woe is me." You know how many people would trade their lives for that moment, for one day, and what you have.
Right.
So, no.
I agree with you 100%. And this is this new, what's the word? This is this new kind of idea for the modern woman. You know, these women, when Michelle Obama refused to attend President Trump's inauguration, it wasn't just political. It was a statement to an entire generation of young women. When you don't get your way, take your ball and go home. And this is what happens when self-worship, because this is what we're seeing in this culture now with these women. Self-worship replaces self-sacrifice. And our daughters are watching. And instead of wisdom, they're learning how to wallow. One of the reasons why Michelle Obama's podcast is not doing well is because the whole time she's complaining. She reminds me of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Every time she's got this frown on her face the whole time she's speaking. She's like, talking about this. She's complaining about everything, even from the first podcast right on down to the most recent one. She comes off as this big, tall Eeyore. Well, I feel like I didn't have to go. I mean, she's just a drag. Like, I don't understand why anybody would watch her, because it's not uplifting. It's not entertaining. She got this brother on there that looks like her, but without a wig. And it's just, it is not something that you would want to spend your time watching. And then just to hear her and this man complain about everything under the sun in this drolling voice. I don't know what happened to her, because she wasn't like that in the White House. I mean, for somebody who was living their life now versus the way she perceives her, or at least her forward-facing attitude when she was in the White House, she looked much happier in the White House. I'll be honest with you.
I dare say, unfortunately for the person that worked for them, these tell-all books would be nice to read, because something is up, something is going on. But like I said, they're just dark. They have just relished and got away with so much sin and then they sit back and then they tell everybody what they should be upset about. There's nothing like far liberal people that do not live in any kind of godliness telling you, all of the poor people, what you should be upset about. So that's what I see when she does a lot of interviews, how angry we should all be. I'm like,
that's what it is, Michelle. It's this feminist rage masquerading as strength. And everything is turned into a grievance. So they've replaced grace and dignity with this grievance about everything. And they hate tradition. So again, this was part of tradition, something that many first ladies have done for ages. No, she's going to disrespect the tradition. She's going to disrespect masculine leadership and family values, and all of it. And she's going to instead model pettiness. It's pettiness over principle. She basically said that. It is. Yeah. So, yeah. And it's a shame, because we're seeing a lot of younger women model this. And as you mentioned, sort of the Bible talks about Titus 2:3-5, teach the younger women. And so we are losing that. It's a lost art of feminine strength, rooted in patience, wisdom, and legacy. Those are so important, but they're being tossed aside now for this feminist rage. And it's just unappealing. And then we wonder why so many women are alone right now. No man wants that. No, they want that.
They don't want that anyways. They need to, we've talked about this over and over. Satan needs marriages destroyed anyway. So they need to not be together. He wants them destroyed, break up the family any way you can. And the fact that Taraji talking about it's so hard. You have to absorb this for your husband when you have to absorb that for, yeah. And you know what? God gave us that ability as women. We were uniquely created to be able to absorb those things, to be able to handle those things. We take stress differently than men. We handle it differently for a reason that is part of our genetic makeup. But I guess if in this society, when you don't even believe that women are women by birth, by genetics, then I'm not surprised.
Right.
Yeah, I count it all joy that I have the ability to take those things on and work, give and take. And apparently at this point, Michelle Obama doesn't even believe in that give and take. Otherwise, she would have been there at the inauguration. She would have understood her role as a former first lady, and she doesn't.
Right. You're absolutely right. And so, again, Michelle Obama's choice was not normal. It broke a long tradition of civility, maturity, and statesmanship, especially expected from someone in her position, And so whether she was physically present or emotionally absent, her posture set a tone of division, not dignity. And guess what? Younger generations are watching. So, and again, taking it back to this clip, these are two women that look miserable. I mean, for all this self-love that these feminists preach and, I'm living my life and all this, these women look miserable. Look at this. Taraji is like queen miserable. Every time I see her, she looks unhinged. She looked like she is this one moment from just going off the deep end. And I feel bad for them. Yeah. I really do. Because they're never going to find what is going to fulfill them where they're looking. They're not going to find it.
KJ, you took the words out of my mouth. I was literally thinking satisfaction. They will never be satisfied.
Right.
There won't be anything or anyone or any amount of money or notoriety that will satisfy them. And even if they do, it seems that like Michelle Obama, the satisfaction is only for the moment that she's in full reign and power. So she can't be satisfied in stepping down or taking a different role in life. And God has seasons for us all. So we're supposed to move on to that next season, but apparently they can't. And you're right. They're passing this down. And not only they're passing it down, but somebody like Michelle Obama, she's passing that down to congressmen and senators. And some of these women that we have in office right now are horrific. And she set an example.
What is going on with these women? Why they look so masculine all of a sudden? And listen, I know you guys have said, people are saying that she's a man. I don't believe she's a man. I don't. But this woman has gone through a transition just within the last several years. When she was in the White House, she looked very feminine. I mean, I know you guys are going to get upset with me, but I thought Michelle Obama was an icon as far as the way she dressed. She was, you may not agree with her politics, and I do not agree with her politics, but I like Michelle Obama as far as her look as a first lady. And then over the last several years, she has just gotten so masculine. She looks a mess. I don't understand what happened.
She was classy. And,
she was classy.
No matter what you believe, her chromosomes at birth, she was always feminine and she was classy. She had a Jackie O style. Their stylists were great. And if she says that she picked out stuff and had it with her at all time, well, she knew how to dress. Right now, I don't know what's happening, but I don't really want to see her out speaking anymore until she can figure that out, because it gets rough. It's worse every time she goes out. and makes these big, huge public appearances. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot more because we're going to be up for all these elections. Maybe she's just having that's like a midlife crisis right there.
That's gotta be.
I mean, that looks like, the guy's going out and buying the Corvettes. I guess that's the thing.
I don't know what she's doing. This looks a mess. It's like, it's almost like, Michelle, these women are trying to play some youth. I don't know. And it looks really crazy. It really does. I don't know. But
age gracefully, ladies. Our message for right now. You should be able to age gracefully and live with joy and peace. But I'm not surprised she doesn't have peace, because if you don't have, and you're not rooted in Christ, you will not have that peace. So you can't share that peace. You can tear people down. You can come after their joy, but there's something in people that can't give that joy. And at some point when she was in the White House, whether it was fake, whether it was pretense, she appeared to have joy. She appeared to be happy. And so that's gone right now. And when you hear her speak, I'm like, man, these women are just angry.
Right. Yeah. Angry. Yeah.
Angry.
Yeah. Well, we will continue to follow that story and comment on that. I want to end tonight. I know we didn't have it scheduled, but we are coming up on President Trump's first 100 days. So next Wednesday marks 100 days for President Trump's his presidency. And so I want to ask you, Michelle, what are some of your most favorite, or some of the things that he's done in these first 100 days, maybe one or two things that you have just been most excited about, that you feel like have been most instrumental as far as his policy, or just something he's brought to the table in this first 100 days?
Man, it's just USA.
Yeah.
USA. In my head, I'm always chanting. I'm like, make America great again. The border. He closed the border.
Yeah.
That in itself is amazing. I love Tom Homan. And I love who he put. I love Kristi Noem in her position. And I think that what I'm excited about is who he has as his team. I love his team. And I like tariffs. I'm going to be the opposite of everybody else. I like a good tariff. He's bringing people to the table who never showed up before. You invited them over and over. In fact, the past presidents, well, we know the clown that was a president, well, Biden, who wasn't really the president. They didn't even have the table set. They didn't entertain tariffs. They were afraid of it. And I think a lot of people who don't understand tariffs are afraid, but he is using it masterfully as a bargaining tool. So kudos on him. I look forward to the next 100 days, because I think, somebody said S-Files. Yes, the executive order to define men and women and get those boys out of the girls' bathrooms and stop men from competing. That was fantastic. So I think he's had a great set of executive decisions that he kept his promise.
Yep. I agree. I think my S-Files, and you just said it for me, was his decisive move to cut federal funding for schools teaching critical race theory, and his rollback of Biden's Title IX policies, with having the boys in girls sports. That was because you took my number one was the border, like you said, but second for me was this definitely, because I think with this, it kind of shifted the cultural battlefield. It shifted it all, because with this, people have been more emboldened to stand up for, traditional biological sex. Yeah. And we say, many parents were like, this is crazy. We don't want this in our schools. But we felt like we did not have the backing by, leaders in politics or government and things like that. But when President Trump got into office and he started handing down this stuff, making it known that there's only two genders, talking about defunding these schools that are pushing this racial essentialism and all this type of stuff, it kind of trickled down all the way to local levels all across the country. And we are seeing a huge shift. So, yeah.
And I'm excited. You know what? The states are to this day, like right now, still suing the administration over that policy, which is just keeping boys out of girls' sports and trying to say that it's unconstitutional to withhold federal funding. He's going to win. And I'm happy the Supreme Court is taking on these cases. He's going to win every time. But it's common sense. And you know what Trump is saying? I kept my word and I'm not afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just not afraid.
Right. And he's reminding America that the federal government doesn't own our children.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? It's stopped. It's done. And I'm happy. I'm happy about it. So.
And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. I love Doge. I'm gonna have to smile every time. It doesn't matter about who's in Doge or who's running it. It matters that Doge is exposing the waste, fraud, and abuse. We've been waiting for so long. And as of this week, oh my gosh, removing dyes, holding the Food Administration accountable.
Oh, right.
On his A game, I was shouting. I have a lot of, the Maha moms that are friends of mine. I'm like, yes, we are coming for you, food industry. That was an amazing play.
Yeah. I mean, beyond all of the politics, like Republican and Democrat, I think a lot of people who felt voiceless have been given a voice. And one are the homeschooling moms, not just on the education level, but I know, back in the day when my son was young and I was home, I remember how I would meet a lot of homeschooling moms, a lot of stay-at-home moms, and they taught me so much on nutrition and food. And they were leading the way in that years ago, before it kind of became mainstream. You're talking about getting these artificial dyes out of food, talking about processed food and stuff. So I think they were given a voice in this MAHA movement as President Trump brought on RFKJ. And now, as you mentioned, getting the dyes, making it actual policy.
Yeah, it's fantastic. We are so sick. Our children are so sick compared to nations like Japan that really cook and have prepared meals. Right. Their health, the differences are night and day. The levels of obesity, where one nation has only 13% obesity rate and we're at the 60, 70%. And we're feeding our children like over 50% of the food they eat. Actually, they said it's up to 60+% of food children eat right now is synthetic. It is unhealthy. It is ultra processed here. And it doesn't have to be, because the food companies make the same food and send it overseas with real fruits and vegetables. They have pulled one over on us for years. So again, this is not just President Trump and conservatives in charge, because Kennedy is not. It's God placing the right people in positions of power so he can expose the truth and give us an opportunity to turn back to him and save the nation, or as many people, until he comes back. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, folks, on that note, we will see you on Sunday night. I want to highlight Angie's comment here. She says, please keep Elon and President Trump in your prayers. Everyone, they need our covering. Absolutely. Yes, we will continue to pray for them and all of them in leadership. We pray that God keeps them covered and put a hedge of protection around them from evil seen and unseen. Yes, indeed. So final thoughts for everyone tonight, Michelle.
No, peace be with you. I just hope that you were all blessed over this last week. And remember, he is risen. Christ is alive. And just keep sharing the gospel. I love this season to just be renewed and refreshed.
Absolutely. Again, folks, from faith and family to politics and culture, we are here at Christian Conservative. We tackle the hard truths and stand firm on biblical principles. We will see you on Sunday, same time, 9 p.m. Thank you so much. Have a good night.